They humiliated her. Laughter echoed through the steel atrium as she was dragged toward the exit. Her linen dress wrinkled, her sandals scuffed from the polished granite floor. They threw her out of a Billionaire's product launch, all because she was dressed too simply. "She's a gatecrasher," someone shouted. "Look at her, probably here to steal a sample of the wine." What they didn't know was this. The woman they just kicked out wasn't a guest. She was the founder's wife. Eliza Harper arrived at the Marina Bay Sands in Singapore on a humid November evening. The kind of night where the Marina Bay shimmered like liquid gold and the air carried the faint scent of frangipani. The venue, a futuristic architectural marvel soaring above the city, was transformed into a fortress of glamour for the launch of Verve, the groundbreaking wine collection by Marcus Reed, the enigmatic vintner whose brand, Sip Savant, had redefined luxury and amassed him a 150 billion fortune. The guest list was a tightly guarded secret, rumored to include Bollywood stars, tech moguls, and fashion icons. Paparazzi were banned, their drones chased off by private security bots, and the airspace hummed with helicopters, ensuring exclusivity. This was no ordinary launch. It was a global spectacle, cloaked in prestige. Eliza stepped out of a modest grab taxi, her cream linen dress catching the breeze. The dress was simple, sleeveless, with a soft drape that hugged her slender frame without screaming for attention. Her chestnut hair was woven into a loose braid, a few strands dancing free in the humidity. She wore no makeup beyond a swipe of balm, and her only accessory was a small card, her invitation, tucked in her hand. At 36, Eliza's beauty was quiet but undeniable. High cheekbones, emerald eyes that held both warmth and steel, and a composure that seemed to anchor the chaos around her. She approached the VIP entrance with measured steps, her worn leather sandals silent on the granite path. The guard, a towering man named Felix, with a jaw like granite, stood beneath a canopy of LED lights. His eyes flicked over Eliza's outfit, lingering on the absence of gemstones, designer logos, or anything that screamed wealth. He held up a hand before she could speak. "Staff, go around back," he said, his Singaporean accent thick with dismissal. He pointed to a service alley where waiters in sleek uniforms scurried with trays of sparkling wine. Eliza's lips curved into a faint smile, unshaken. "I'm a guest," she said, her voice clear and steady, like a bell cutting through fog. She extended her invitation. "Eliza Harper." Felix's brow furrowed as he took the card, turning it over as if it might reveal a punchline. "Wait here," he grunted, stepping away to speak into his earpiece. Eliza stood alone, the city lights warming her shoulders as the first guests began to arrive. A black Rolls-Royce disgorged a trio of women in dazzling outfits, one in emerald satin, another in obsidian sequins, the third in a gold gown that shimmered like molten lava. Their gemstones caught the light, necks and wrists heavy with wealth. They paused, noticing Eliza, and their laughter broke like a wave. "Is she lost?" the woman in gold said, loud enough for the atrium to hear. "That's the intern, here to beg for a sip." Her name was Vanessa Lowe, a fashion critic known for her razor-sharp tongue and vicious Instagram feed. The other two, Priya Kapoor, a fintech heiress, and Zara Lim, a K-pop idol turned crypto queen, giggled, their eyes raking Eliza's dress. "Charity shop chic," Priya sneered, snapping a photo with her phone. "This is going viral." Eliza didn't flinch. She met Vanessa's gaze, her expression calm but piercing, like someone who'd faced worse storms and walked through them untouched. "You're welcome to ask me directly," she said softly, her tone polite but edged with quiet authority. Vanessa blinked, caught off guard, then recovered with a smirk. "Oh, darling, I don't talk to the help." The words landed like small, precise cuts. As Eliza stood under the LED-lit canopy, a group of influencers and their entourages gathered nearby, their whispers cutting sharper than the bay breeze. "She's got some nerve," sneered Chloe Tan, a travel vlogger draped in pearls. "Crashing in that rag, probably fishing for a brand deal." Her partner Ryan chuckled loud enough for Eliza to hear. "Bet she's a barista who stole an invite." Another guest, tossing back a martini, called, "Send her to the MRT." Their laughter swelled, Phones were already out, framing Eliza as a joke before she could speak. She stood serene, but their words hung like poison, unearned and unrelenting. New conflict. A new figure joined the fray, a self-proclaimed socialite watchdog named Damien Coe, who ran a notorious gossip blog. Spotting Eliza, he live-streamed to his 2 million followers, zooming in on her sandals. Caught a fraud at Sipsavant's launch, he crowed. This nobody thinks she can sneak into Marcus Reed's world. Let's make her famous for all the wrong reasons. His followers flooded the chat with laughing emojis and demands to expose her. Damien approached Eliza, shoving a microphone in her face. So, who'd you bribe to get that invite, huh? Spill it. Eliza's calm gaze met his. I'm here as a guest, she said evenly. Damien scoffed, turning to his camera. She's delusional. Let's vote. Ban her or dunk her in the bay? The crowd roared, some chanting, Dunk her! Dunk her! More guests arrived, men in bespoke suits, women in haute couture that cost more than most cars. They formed a loose circle around Eliza, drawn by the spectacle. An older man, Sir Reginald Tan, a shipping tycoon with silver hair and a permanent scowl, leaned toward his companion, a blockchain baroness named Irina Chen. Does she know this is a billionaire's launch? He said, his voice carrying like a stage whisper. Market stall dresses and scuffed sandals aren't permitted in this section. Eliza's fingers tightened briefly around her invitation, the only sign of tension in her otherwise serene posture. She stood straighter, her chin lifting slightly, as if the weight of their stares was nothing new. Felix returned, now flanked by a second guard, a stern woman named Lena, with a tablet and a no-nonsense glare. Ma'am, Lena said, her tone sharper than Felix's. This entrance is for VIPs. Your invitation checks out, but you don't look like you belong. Step aside, please. Before Lena grabbed Eliza's arm, she stepped closer, her tablet raised like a gavel. You really thought you'd fool us? She barked, loud enough for the atrium to hear. Fake invites, don't cut it at a Reed event. Where'd you get this? Printed it yourself? Guests leaned in, smirking as Felix added, Confess now, saves us the trouble. A woman shouted, Bust the fraud. Phones flashed, capturing Eliza's silence, calm, unshaken, as Lena tore the invitation in half, tossing it to the ground. The crowd's cheers stung, their glee at her supposed crime, a public execution of her name. To amplify the humiliation, Lena grabbed a nearby tray of promotional wine samples and deliberately splashed a glass of Merlot across Eliza's dress, the red liquid staining her cream linen. Look like you belong, at least, Lena sneered, prompting cackles from the crowd. Added humiliation. As the wine dripped down her dress, a group of young influencers, led by a TikToker named Jasper Wu, began a cruel game. Jasper grabbed a tray of canapes and smeared a dollop of truffle mousse across Eliza's cheek, shouting, Free makeup for the peasant! The crowd howled, some tossing shrimp skewers that tangled in her braid. A woman in a sapphire gown, Monica Rye, a wine critic, joined in, pouring a second glass of wine over Eliza's head, declaring, A toast to the gatecrasher. The sticky liquid matted her hair, and the crowd's laughter grew feral, phones capturing every drop. To escalate the outrage, Damien Coe orchestrated a mock charity drive, tossing coins at Eliza's feet and urging the crowd to donate to her cab fare home. The clinking coins and jeers created a scene so degrading that even some guests shifted uncomfortably, though none intervened. The crowd's murmurs grew louder, a mix of amusement and disdain. Vanessa Lowe raised her martini glass, her voice cutting through. Gold digger alert, she called, grinning like a shark. She's here to snag a rich exec before the keynote ends. Laughter erupted, harsh and unrestrained. Priya's phone was out again, live streaming now, her caption flashing. Crashing the Vino Verve launch in this fit. Bold. Zara chimed in. Maybe she's hunting for a sugar daddy. Sad, really. Eliza's eyes flickered with something. Hurt, perhaps, but buried deep beneath her composure. She spoke again, her voice steady. I'm here for the launch, same as you. Let's keep this kind. The words were gentle, but carried a weight that silenced Vanessa for a moment. Then Zara laughed, tossing her hair. Kind, sweetie? This isn't a night market opening. The conflict escalated as a group of influencers, led by a sneering YouTuber named Kai Shen, began circling Eliza chanting, "Kampong vibes! Kampong vibes!" Their phones recorded every angle, some tossing cocktail napkins at her dress, one smearing her sleeve with caviar from a passing tray. "Clean that up, maid," Kai jeered, sparking more laughter. Lena the guard had heard enough. "That's it," she said, grabbing Eliza's arm. Felix took her other elbow, and together they began marching her toward the exit, past the shimmering LED panels and down the glass-walled corridor. The crowd followed, a pack sensing blood. Phones flashed, capturing Eliza's stained dress, her braid now damp with wine, the caviar smear on her sleeve. "Pathetic," Irina muttered, loud enough for Eliza to hear. "No class," Sir Reginald added, his gold cufflinks glinting. A young crypto bro named Ethan Ung shouted, "Send her back to Jurong." The crowd roared, their cruelty a living thing. As the guards hauled Eliza through the corridor, a woman in a peacock feather gown, Sylvia Coe, flung a glass of rosé at her, the pink liquid soaking her dress and dripping onto her sandals. "Refreshment for the road, darling," Sylvia roared, sparking cackles. A man in a silk suit, Victor Lim, a luxury hotel CEO, tossed a promotional Vino Verve vial at her, the glass clinking against her ankle. "Take a freebie, scavenger," he yelled. Another guest, a fashion blogger named Aria, spat on the floor near Eliza's feet, hissing, "You're ruining the vibe." New conflict and humiliation. A new antagonist emerged, a rival vintner named Roland Cheong, who'd long envied Marcus Reed's success. Seeing an opportunity to undermine the event, Roland egged the crowd on, shouting, "This is what happens when Sipsavant lowers its standards." He signaled to his assistant, who wheeled out a cart of cheap table wine, which Roland began pouring over Eliza's head, declaring, "Here's a taste of your level." The crowd gasped, some cheering, others recoiling at the excess. Roland's actions pushed the humiliation to a new low, the pungent wine soaking her dress and pooling at her feet. A guest, horrified, whispered, "This is too much." But Roland's laughter drowned out dissent, his phone filming for his own brand's smear campaign. The mob surged, their taunts now physical. Filming Eliza's stained dress, her braid now drenched in wine, the caviar smear on her sleeve. She walked on, posture regal, but the crowd's savagery grew, a carnival of cruelty feasting on her silence. To push a new level of degradation, Ethan Ung grabbed a microphone from a nearby display stand and began a mock auction of Eliza's wet market look, shouting, "Starting bid, $1 for this tragedy." The crowd howled, some pretending to bid, others throwing coins that clattered at her feet. Eliza didn't resist. Her steps were even, her face composed, as if she were walking through a range she'd long learned to ignore. The corridor stretched on, each moment stretching the humiliation. Vanessa's voice rang out again. Maybe she thought this was a costume party. Priya's live stream hit 10,000 viewers, comments flooding. Who let her in? Embarrassing. No one stepped forward. No one questioned the guards. The venue's titanium gates loomed ahead, cold and unforgiving, promising banishment. Priya's live stream hit 20,000 viewers as Eliza neared the gates, her voice a gleeful dagger. "This is Eliza Nobody, thinking she could scam her way into Marcus Reed's world," she mocked, zooming in on Eliza's soaked dress, the caviar stain on her sleeve. "Total loser vibes. Bet she's begging on the streets by tonight." Comments exploded. Disgrace. Ban her for life. A guest yelled, "Make her trend for failure," feeding Priya's fire. The internet devoured Eliza's humiliation, memes painting her as a beggar. To escalate the outrage, a group of guests began chanting, "Eliza's crash! Eliza's crash!" While one threw a promotional Vino Verve poster at her, the paper slapping her shoulder before fluttering to the ground. She moved forward, serene, but the global ridicule burned, a wound no one could see. Then a voice cut through, deep and molten, stopping the world. "Take your hands off my wife." The crowd froze, phones still raised, laughter choking in throats. Eliza paused, her lips parting in a small, private smile. Marcus stood at the top of the glass staircase, his navy suit sharp against the city skyline. At 41, he was a study in contrasts, lean and unassuming, with hazel eyes that could warm a room or burn it down. His dark hair was slightly tousled, as if he'd run a hand through it moments before. He'd built Sip Savant from a backyard vineyard, a kid from Serangoon with nothing but grit and a palate for wines. 10 years ago, he'd been nobody, blending grapes in a shed while living off instant noodles. Eliza had been there, his anchor, his truth, when the world saw only a dreamer with no shot. He descended the stairs, ignoring the gasps, the sudden hush. The guards released Eliza instantly, Felix muttering an apology, Lena stepping back like she'd touched fire. Marcus reached Eliza, his hand finding hers, his thumb brushing her knuckles. "You okay?" he asked, his voice low, meant only for her. She nodded, her emerald eyes softening. "Always, Marcus." He turned to the crowd, his presence commanding, a man who'd faced boardrooms and critics and never blinked. "This is Eliza Harper," he said, his voice carrying across the atrium. "My wife. We married 8 months ago in a registry office with 2 witnesses and a promise. No cameras, no headlines, because that's not who we are." The crowd's shock was palpable, a collective intake of breath. Vanessa's martini glass trembled in her hand. Priya's live stream surged to 50,000 viewers, comments exploding. "What? She's his wife?" Marcus's eyes hardened, but his tone stayed measured. "Tonight was meant to be the launch of Vinoverve, a way to share our vision. Eliza chose to arrive like this, not to trick anyone, but to see who'd look beyond the surface, who'd show kindness when they thought no one was watching." He paused, letting the words sink in. "You failed her, all of you." His gaze swept the crowd, pinning Vanessa, Priya, Zara, Sir Reginald, Irina, Ethan. "You mocked her dress, her shoes, her heart. You called her a gold digger, dragged her out like she was trash. You splashed wine on her, smeared mousse on her face, threw shrimp in her hair. But Eliza isn't here for wealth. She walked away from a professorship at NUS to support me when I had nothing. No investors, no name, just a blend and a dream. She believed in me when I barely believed in myself." But the shock didn't end there. Marcus's gaze swept the crowd, his voice steady but laced with fire. "This is Eliza Harper Reed, my wife, and the creator of Vinoverve." A collective gasp ripped through the atrium. Eliza wasn't just his partner in life. She was the genius behind the wine they'd all come to celebrate. The blend, the notes of blackberry and oak that had already sparked a bidding war among luxury brands, had been born in her mind, perfected in late-night tastings while Marcus handled the business. She'd chosen to arrive in simplicity not only to test their kindness, but to prove that true brilliance needs no adornment. The crowd's cruelty had targeted the very woman whose vision they'd been clamoring to witness. Eliza stood beside him, her hand in his, her silence louder than any speech. She didn't need to defend herself. Her grace did that. The crowd was silent now, their earlier bravado crumbling. Vanessa's face flushed, her gemstones suddenly garish. Sir Reginald gripped his cufflinks, avoiding Marcus's eyes. Priya lowered her phone, the live stream still running, capturing every word. Marcus's voice softened, but it cut deeper for it. "If anyone's chasing gold, it's those of you who tore her down to feel bigger. You're not here for creativity or celebration. You're here for clout, and that's not what this night is about." A murmur ran through the crowd, shame mixing with defiance. Ethan Ung tried to laugh it off, muttering, "Bit dramatic, mate." Marcus's gaze snapped to him, and Ethan shrank back. New conflict. Roland Cheong, the rival vintner, tried to salvage his stunt, stepping forward with a smirk. "Come on, Marcus, it was just a bit of fun. Your wife's a sport, right?" He gestured to Eliza, expecting her to play along. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Fun? You poured cheap wine on my wife to sabotage this launch. You're done, Roland." The crowd gasped as Marcus signaled to his security chief, who revealed Roland's earlier attempt to bribe staff into planting fake reviews of Vinoverve. Roland's face paled, his bravado collapsing as guards escorted him out, his brand stock plummeting in real time on trading apps. Eliza squeezed Marcus's hand, a silent signal. "Enough." He exhaled, centering himself, and raised his voice one last time. "This stops now." He nodded to Mei Lin, his chief of staff, who stood nearby in a charcoal suit, her tablet already glowing with data. "May, pull the guest list. Cross-check it with security footage, staff reports, anything we've got. Anyone who insulted Eliza, name them. They're gone." May's fingers moved like lightning, her face a mask of focus. The crowd held its breath as guards fanned out, their earpieces crackling. Vanessa was first, her gasp audible as a guard tapped her shoulder. "Ma'am, you're leaving," he said, pointing to the gates. She clutched her purse, stammering, "This is a mistake." But the guard was unmoved, escorting her past the LED panels, her gold gown trailing like a fallen flag. Priya followed, her phone confiscated to stop the livestream, her protests drowned by the crowd's silence. Zara tried to blend in, but a guard spotted her, and she was led out, her heels clicking in defeat. Vanessa's exit was a masterclass in ruin. May stepped forward, voice clear. "Vanessa Lowe, removed for defaming Eliza Harper Reed." Guards marched her out, her gold gown catching on a gatepost, ripping to her thigh. She screamed, "I'm connected!" But paparazzi swarmed, their flashes merciless as her heel snapped, sprawling her in gravel. Guests gasped, muttering, "She set Eliza up." Online, her brand tanked. Whilst Low Loses trended globally, Vanessa's empire of scorn fell in minutes, her name now dirt, while Eliza's truth rose radiant. Sir Reginald's face reddened as he was approached. "I'm a titan of industry," he barked, but the guard was firm. "You were recorded, sir. Let's go." Marina clung to her husband's arm, but he was escorted out too, his wealth no shield. Priya's downfall came fast as May announced, "Priya Kapoor, banned for malicious streaming. Accounts frozen. Sponsors pulling out." Guards escorted her past the gates, her face ashen, as paparazzi shouted, "Smile, heiress!" Her phone, now useless, slipped from her hand, cracking on the concrete. Guests whispered, she profited off Eliza's pain. Social media turned. Priya plummets surged, her followers abandoning her. In moments, her digital throne collapsed, her cruelty to Eliza a fatal misstep. Eliza's quiet grace stood taller, her victory sealed without a word. Ethan Ung, the crypto bro, tried to joke, "Guess I'm not getting that SIP Savant contract." But his laugh died as he was marched to the gates. To add to the reckoning, May revealed that Ethan had been recorded bribing a staff member to slip Eliza a fake invitation, hoping to humiliate her further. His firm dropped him within minutes. His Instagram profile flooded with a Chazangashas Ethan erased. New reckoning, Damien Coe, the gossip blogger, was next. May's tablet revealed he'd fabricated a story about Eliza being a con artist, posted hours before the event to seed distrust. As guards escorted him out, his livestream crashed, his followers turning on him with Damien down. Jasper Wu, the TikToker, was banned for inciting the canapé attack. His brand deals canceled as sponsors distanced themselves. Roland Cheong's exit was the most dramatic. His attempt to flee was thwarted when his own assistant turned on him, leaking his sabotage plans to May. His winery's shares tanked, and Yashtra Roland ruined, trended as his legacy crumbled. The paparazzi waiting beyond the venue's perimeter went wild. Flashes lit up the night sky, capturing every exit. Headlines were already forming. Billionaires booted from Reed launch, elites shamed in Singapore. The atrium was quieter now, the air heavy with reckoning. Marcus turned to Eliza, his anger fading into something raw. "You didn't have to do this," he said, his voice for her alone. She smiled, touching his cheek. "I wanted to. For us." She stepped away, slipping into a private suite for a moment. When she returned, the crowd's breath caught. Eliza wore a couture gown, midnight velvet that flowed like ink, its bodice embroidered with emeralds that glowed under the city lights. Her braid was undone, her hair falling in soft waves, a jade clip catching the light like a star. She was stunning, not because of the dress, but because of the woman inside it, humble, fierce, herself. Marcus took her hand, his eyes never leaving hers. The product launch resumed, the stage now set for Vino Verve's unveiling. The host, a renowned sommelier named Madame Claire, stepped forward, her silver gown rustling. The presentation began as the city skyline glittered, the Marina Bay streaked with silver. Marcus spoke of the wine, his voice clear, crediting Eliza's insight for its core notes. Eliza stood beside him, her presence a promise of their shared vision. The guests, humbled, watched in silence, some dabbing eyes. Vanessa's laughter was a memory. The unveiling was powerful, a seal of something unbreakable. As they turned to face the crowd, the applause was soft at first, then grew, a tide of respect. Eliza didn't bask in it. She didn't need to. She'd come to test the world and found it wanting, but she'd also found her place, right here with Marcus. The reception unfolded under a canopy of city lights, the venue's rooftop alive with lanterns and music. Eliza and Marcus mingled, her gown shimmering, his hands steady on her back. May approached during a quiet moment, her tablet dark now. "It's done," she said. "The internet's obsessed. Eliza's trending as the billionaire's truth. They're calling it iconic." Marcus chuckled, pulling Eliza closer. "She is." Eliza leaned into him, her laughter a soft melody. She'd walked into judgment and walked out stronger, not because she'd won, but because she'd stayed true. The world would remember this launch not for its wealth or scandal, but for the woman who'd faced a crowd and shown them what worth really meant, surprising and humorous. Twist. As the night wound down, a final surprise unfolded. Eliza took the stage, her gown catching every light, and addressed the crowd with a mischievous glint in her eye. "Before we end, I have one last announcement," she said, her voice warm but playful. "While you were all busy judging my sandals, I had a little side project running." She gestured to May, who wheeled out a cart covered in a velvet cloth.